A short history of female teachers in the United States. Lovely one-room schoolhouse. Not many of those around anymore. Here's an important point. Women dominated classrooms as teachers. They did it pretty much from the beginning of the public school system all the way up to right now, today. But we really don't talk about the disparity of wages, about how female teachers are undervalued in the school system. We just don't get to any of that. And I'm going to get to it a little bit. How did it happen? What's the deal? So during the colonial era and throughout mid-19th century, the majority of teachers were white males in America because they were the perfect role models, right? They were just would be able to keep everybody in line and be looked up to, and it's just like, yeah, you want that. They were just the standard for school teachers. But then the Industrial Revolution came along, lots of factories opened, lots of more opportunities for better wages and upward mobility, and boom, there go the men. And into the classrooms came women, mostly white women at that time, and then African-American women a little bit later. But again, women. And all of a sudden, we didn't need that rugged role model of men. All of a sudden, women, because they were so loving and caring and nurturing, they were the perfect selection for teachers. So that happened and has continued for just forever until today. So the thing is that women were allowed into teaching because they were a better deal, and that kind of happened in other fields like nursing and social work. Kind of the idea of women, their skills were really in the home, and those were the kinds of occupations that still kind of approximated that. So, so the beginning of the end in terms of like, why is it that women were considered to just be capable of doing kind of domestic-like occupations, right? I think it started with the plow. So the deal with the plow is that once you had to have this upper mobility, this strength to plow the fields, and it was great because you could get a lot more done. All of a sudden, it was natural for women to stay inside. I mean, this is kind of confusing, but it's a good point in that all of a sudden women were not capable of doing some of the more rigorous things, the more valued things of helping, maintain the family and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And then it kind of that's kind of where the idea came that women belonged in the home, in the house, quite literally, right? Which is a big, long thing, but what happened during the Industrial Revolution is like, okay, and we're talking white, middle class, in upper class society, is that the women are going to stay home. Women are going to stay home, and the men are going to bring home the bacon, right? And the women are going to fry it up in the pan. So those two things, I think, really, really slammed it. Excuse me, for women in terms of that they could venture out into other non-domesticated sort of occupations, and teachers just fit the bill, totally fit the bill for that. And again, the caretaking idea of teacher. But here's the thing. All of a sudden, everybody realized what a good deal it was to hire females, to hire women as teachers versus white men, because dang, what a deal, right? Here's a quote I think is interesting. God seems to have made women particularly suited to guide and develop the infant mind, and it seems very poor policy to pay a man $20 or $22 a month for teaching children the ABCs when a female could do the work more successfully at 1/3 of the price. Ka-ching, right? Very interesting when you think of that. So yeah, it's a better deal. All of a sudden, We don't value women very much. And, we don't value children very much during this era. And that's reflected throughout our history, our evolution as a society, right? And for African American female teachers, it was even worse because they had all sorts of racism to deal with besides the gender discrimination, and they had no job stability at all. There weren't they didn't have contracts usually. There was no, they're always on probation. So really tough conditions for all females, but specifically for females of color. But nonetheless, it was a better deal than, marrying because you felt obligated to marry so that you could have a roof over your head or you just had a little bit of agency, right? A little bit of independence at times, even though there were really strict rules for teachers way back when. So quite interesting. So the deal is that teachers were overworked. But they still did it. Look at, pack in the classrooms, have some pretty impossible things. You had to clean the building. You had to stoke the fire. You had to do all sorts of things. But it still was a chance to maybe earn your own way. So it stayed popular forever. What was kind of interesting that it got a little political too, because women were able to, meet at work and start kind of agitating for better wages, for better working conditions, stuff. So that was kind of an interesting aspect. It happened in the factory some during the Industrial Revolution, when women kind of organized in factory work, and that would be mostly white middle class women that had the ability to the luxury to maybe do that a little bit more than the poor white working class and the of color women that were working at the time. But so some interesting things happened in terms of better conditions, and that's been something that teachers have done since then. Since that time is to demand more. We also see during the civil rights movement that lots of things were going on. There was the Brown versus Board of Education, and that was, when people said, yeah, we can't segregate schools. That's not fair, not equitable. So that was a huge thing. And of course it took, this, Brown versus the Board of Education took forever to even really enact. But it was kind of a bum deal for black female teachers. And we talk, I think, so I'll just leave it at that. It was a bum deal for them because all the black kids were bused to white schools. All the kids of color were bused to white schools because they were better schools. And so all the teachers of color, specifically black teachers, lost their jobs. So I don't know why that's blank. But there has always been a history of teachers advocating for their students, for sure, wanting better conditions for the students, more materials for the students, but also, advocating for, we deserve more. We deserve better working conditions. We deserve higher wages and stuff. And so there's a big, long tradition of that. And I think that's the most interesting aspect of teachers. The majority of them are females. And they have really worked hard to uplift their students even at the cost of themselves, and so that's kind of where we're at. Interestingly, I like that. Interestingly enough, that's always been because we look at teachers as nurturing individuals. They're always going to look out for their students. So that's another whole subject of the benevolent teacher, uplifting their students. But the deal is that there's been a lot of change over the last several years for all sorts of reasons. The low wages has been around forever. So I have a master's degree, 16 years of experience, work 2 extra jobs, and donate blood plasma to pay the bills. I'm a teacher in America. And this is from several years ago, but it's all, you look all over, especially, not so much in California, not so much in New York, not so much on the coasts, but you can still get hear teachers talk about having more than one job because it's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough pay. So that's still been a sticking point. And what's been really interesting is the amount of teacher burnout and women teachers specifically, because they get less pay. A lot of times, there's not so much advancement. Certainly there's more superintendent and principals, but still, like, it's a man's world, right? But so they don't get paid as much. They have, the double shift where they work all day and come home to maybe a family and a husband and do more of the work. And that's another story, but you know what I'm talking about there. So what has happened is tons of teachers are really bailing. I mean, it's always been a field in the last several decades where teachers are, okay, this isn't working. I mean, I need more money in this or more money than this, or the expectations are pretty high, So they went into other fields that paid better. Women went into other fields that paid better. But it's still been, again, a gathering place for women to work. And what's going on now is the burnout is so different. The pressures are so different in the last couple of years. And okay, you can name them, right? The low salaries continue. And we have the whole school shooting stuff. We have the post-COVID years now where there's the expectations on teachers are even more. I mean, they were definitely during, off-site teaching and stuff. So there's just a whole lot going on that hasn't gotten better. And so, again, the burnout rate for female teachers is a lot more than male teachers. Their base pay is lower. Their ability to advance is lower. More housekeeping of children, expectations for female teachers. More after you leave work and go to your second shift of doing all the domestic chores in your family. So lots of stuff, right? Lots of stuff. Pandemic really knocked the wind out of so many teachers in terms of the expectations. It did for students too. I mean, come on, let's be honest. For all sorts of students. I mean, my sister was teaching kindergarten during COVID, and then was trying to teach them online via Zoom. I mean, I was cracking up over that. I thought I had it bad when I want you to have your cameras on and stuff. And I'm and I watch her trying to teach like 25 kindergartners on Zoom. It was insane because their parents were just leaving them alone, and they were all over. It was crazy. So anyway, it's been tough for everyone, but it's kind of been teachers going like, I don't know if this is worth it anymore. So they have stepped out. There's a real big teacher shortage in so many states, including California, right? So it's bad. And then again, the reiteration of like school safety. So this is from the 22-23 school year. Like 1 in 4 teachers say their school had a gun-related lockdown last year. Oh my gosh, that is like a lot, right? That's crazy. And that there's that suggestion, and it's been instituted in some states where teachers are carrying guns. And understandably, I can see why there might be some inspiration to do that, right? Given these stats. Sharp spike over the past 5 years. In 2023, the most ever. It's not going down. We don't have 2024 stats yet, but it's going up. But the deal is, teachers don't want to be cops. Give them better pay. Give them more training. So, just basically, there's a whole lot of reasons why women are leaving the profession. Let's see. So even as women dominate in lower paid teaching positions as roles and responsibilities, and therefore salaries increase, women drop off. In spite of the robust pipeline of female educators coming out of classrooms, just 52% are principals. 24% of women are superintendents. of the 50 largest districts in the country, only 13 are led by women. So again, there's a lot of sexism and certainly racism in the ability to move up in that whole chain. So really, just kind of back to the whole circle of public schools rely heavily on women labor. Why do they pay female teachers less? So they do that. Oh, yeah, because it's a better deal. So again, it's not that black and white in terms of, okay, obviously two people applying for the position, one's male and one's female. I mean, the starting is going to be the same and stuff, but the ability to upward mobility of hiring females as in the lead roles, as principals, as superintendents, at all those important things. And then sometimes in colleges and high school stuff, there's like base pay and more incentives for men to, move forward. And like during COVID, if you're a teacher and your kids are sick, the females stay home, so you lose stuff. So it's all kind of wrapped up into that whole thing. But again, teachers started off as men, white men, and ended up as mostly female, white females and female of color. And it's kind of a bum deal. So this was kind of a bummer of a lecture, but that's kind of where we are, just a quick little where we are with all of this. Okay. Sorry, this was a little garbled, but you get the idea. I hope. Okay. Thanks.